Good morning, students. In the last few lectures of the operating system, we were seeing operating system first, second and third unit. Now, in this lecture, we will start our next unit, that is CPU scheduling. Our fourth unit of the operating system is the CPU scheduling. There are some chapter objectives of this unit. Like, first objective is to introduce CPU scheduling, which is the basis for multi-programmed operating system. Next, to describe various CPU scheduling algorithms. Next, to discuss evaluation criteria for selecting a CPU scheduling algorithm for a particular system. First, we will see what is and exactly CPU scheduling is there. In this point, we will see the basic introduction to the CPU scheduling. The CPU scheduling is the basis for multi-programmed operating system. By switching the CPU among multiple processes, the operating system can make the computer more productive. In this chapter, we introduce the basic CPU scheduling concepts and present several CPU scheduling algorithms. We also consider the problem of selecting an algorithm for a particular system. That means a CPU scheduling is a process which allows one process to use the CPU while the execution of another process is on hold. That means that another process is in waiting state due to unavailability of resources, any resources like any input output device, for example printer, scanner, etc. So, thereby making full use of CPU. So, the main aim of CPU scheduling is to make the system efficient, fast and fair. In this chapter, we will see the basic concepts related with the CPU scheduling. And in this chapter, we will also study the different algorithms are useful for the CPU scheduling. There are different types of algorithms like first in first out algorithm, priority scheduling algorithm, round robin algorithm, etc. These are the different CPU scheduling algorithms are useful or used for scheduling the different processes that are executed in a multiprocessing system. In a multiprocessing system, we need a CPU scheduling because of there are multiple number of n number of processes are going to be executed simultaneously. So, in that case, we need the CPU scheduling. For that CPU scheduling, we are managing the different processes that are going to be executed in that particular operating system. The CPU scheduling, the term itself says that the scheduling is done into the CPU. The scheduling is done for the different processes that are executed in a CPU. That is a CPU scheduling. And the different algorithms that are used for scheduling these processes under the CPU. So, why do we need the scheduling process or why do we need scheduling concept? Because a typical process involves both input output time and CPU time. In a uniprogramming system like Microsoft DOS system, the time spent waiting for input output is wasted and CPU is free during this time. In case of multiprogramming system, one process can use CPU while another process is waiting for I/O. This is possible only with the process scheduling. So, the process scheduling or the CPU scheduling is needed in our operating system. In short, the CPU scheduling process involves the process of managing or the process of scheduling the different processes that are executed in the operating system. And for that scheduling, different algorithms are implemented. That algorithms we are learn in next lectures. Next we will see what are the different objectives of the scheduling. There is an objective of a scheduling process. Scheduling of this kind of fundamental operating system function. Almost all computer resources are scheduled before their use. The CPU is, of course, one of the primary computer resources. Thus, its scheduling is central to the operating system design. That means whenever any computation, any operation done into the computer system, then before that operation is scheduled. And in the operating system or in a computer system, the resources are scheduled before their use. All the resources of the computer system are scheduled first, and then that resources are going to be in a use. So, it tells that all the computer resources are scheduled before their use. So, the CPU is one of the resource of a computer system. CPU is the one of the important or the primary resource of a computer system. So, for that resource we want to do the scheduling. So, thus its scheduling is the central to the operating system design. So, CPU scheduling is very important in the operating system design, because the CPU is what? Central processing unit. In this unit, the different operations are going to be executed. All the operations are performed in a central processing unit. The CPU is same like our brain. In a human body, the brain is the important component like that the CPU is the one of the important component of the computer system, because the CPU performs all the operations inside the computer system. The different processes are going to be executed in this CPU. So, we want to do the scheduling of the CPU resource while designing a operating system. So, this is the main objective of the CPU scheduling. In short, in a single processor system, only one process can execute or only one process can run at a time. Any other process must wait until the CPU is free and can be rescheduled. The objective of multiprogramming is to have some processes running at all times to maximize the CPU utilization. So, the main objective of the multiprogramming or the multiprocessing operating system is to maximize the CPU utilization. The idea is relatively simple. A process is executed until it must wait. Then, typically for the completion of some input-output request. In a simple computer system, the CPU then just sits idle. Then, all this waiting time is wasted. No useful work is accomplished. So, with a multiprogramming, we try to use this time productively. So, several processes are kept into the memory at one time. So, into the multiprocessing operating system, we want to do the scheduling of the different processes that are going to be into the computer system. This is the main objective of a scheduling, that is to increase, that is to maximize the CPU utilization. Then next we will see the CPU and I/O burst cycle. The CPU and I/O burst cycle is shown here. Here is an CPU burst, then I/O burst, then again CPU burst, then again I/O burst. Then what is an exactly CPU burst and I/O burst? First we will see what is an exactly that CPU burst is there and I/O burst is there in the operating system. The success of CPU scheduling depends on an observed property of a process. That is, process execution consists of a CPU execution and I/O wait. It tells that the total success of the CPU scheduling is depends on an observed property of a processes. That means whenever any process is going to be executed in the operating system, then that process execution consists of two parts, that is CPU execution and second one is the I/O wait. That means every process execution cycle consists of CPU execution and I/O wait. The processes alternate between these two states. The process alternatively changes its state between these two states, that is CPU execution state and I/O wait state. Whenever the process gets executed, the process alternatively changes its state. That state changes into two states. First state is the CPU execution state and second state is the I/O wait state. The process execution begins with a CPU burst. Always whenever a process is going to be executed in the operating system, then at that time the process execution begins with the CPU burst. That is followed by an I/O burst, which is followed by another CPU burst, then another I/O burst, and so on until the execution of that particular process is getting completed. Eventually, the final CPU burst ends with a system request to terminate the execution. That CPU and I/O burst is shown in the figure. In short, in this slide we will learn that the total success of a CPU scheduling is basically depends on an observed property of that process, and whenever any process is going to be executed in the operating system, then that process execution consists of a one cycle. That cycle consists of two states, that is either CPU execution state and second state is a I/O wait, that means I/O wait state. But whenever the process is going to be executed in the operating system, the process always changes its state. The process alternatively changes its states from CPU execution state to the I/O wait state and again I/O wait state to the CPU execution state. But always remember that the process execution always begins with a CPU burst, CPU utilization state. then that state is followed by an IO burst, which is followed by another CPU burst, then another IO burst, and so on until the process gets terminated. And the final CPU burst ends with a system request terminate execution. Whenever a system requests to terminate its execution, then the final CPU burst ends. This is an CPU and IO burst cycle. See the CPU and IO burst cycle. This is one cycle in which the two states are alternatively followed by a process. The process changes its states alternatively between CPU burst to IO burst, again IO burst to CPU burst, again CPU burst to IO burst, again IO burst to CPU burst, and so on until the process gets terminated. Whenever a system request for a terminate, then the final CPU burst is done. First, I will tell you what is an exactly burst is. A burst is a continuous action. In a real time, what is the meaning of burst? Burst is a continued action. Now, these can apply to different resources in the scheduling concept. While scheduling, each process gets to use the CPU for its slice. What is tells that while scheduling, each process gets to use the CPU for its slice. Then that slice gets is called as CPU burst. In simple terms, the duration for which a process gets control on a CPU is a CPU burst time, and the concept of gaining control of a CPU is the CPU burst. Similarly, an IO burst is the concept of performing IO operation. In short, CPU burst is what? Burst means what? Burst, it is an continued action. Then that term burst we can apply in a scheduling concept. There are two terms in a scheduling, CPU burst and IO burst. Then what is an CPU burst? The duration or the time for which a process gets control of a CPU is the CPU burst time. That means a concept of gaining control of a CPU is the CPU burst. That means in which slice, in which duration the process gets control over the CPU, that slice, that duration we called as a CPU burst. Then what is an IO burst? Similarly, an IO burst is the concept of performing IO operation. Whenever a process perform any IO operation, then that slice, that duration we called as an IO burst. And whenever a process is executed in a CPU, then that process follows these two states alternatively. That is a CPU burst and IO burst. Here is an CPU burst. Suppose one process is going to be executed in a CPU, then that process always begins with a CPU burst. In that CPU burst, suppose one process storing a file, reading the contents of the file, then that process gets control over the CPU. So that is a CPU burst. But suppose while executing, that process requires some input output device or input output resource. So because of that reason, that process is going to be in a waiting state. And that state, that duration, that time we called as an I/O burst. So, while executing any process into the operating system, that process always follows these two states alternatively until the execution of that process is going to be completed. In short, there are two states while the process is going to be executed in a CPU, that is a CPU burst and I/O burst. CPU burst is a duration in which a process gets a control over the CPU, and the I/O burst is the what? I/O burst whenever a process performs any input output operation, at that time the process is going to be in a I/O burst or waiting for an I/O state. So, while any program or any process is going to be executed in a operating system, then alternatively the process follows the CPU burst and I/O burst till the execution of the program will successfully completed. And whenever the system requests for a terminate, the process will stop its execution. Whenever a system requests to the terminate the process execution, then the final CPU burst is occur. This is an alternative sequence of a CPU and I/O burst. Then next we will see the what is and exactly CPU scheduler is. Whenever the CPU becomes idle means CPU becomes a free, then the operating system must select one of the process in the ready queue to be executed. The selection process is carried out by the short-term scheduler that we called as also the CPU scheduler. We know that the short-term scheduler, the short-term scheduler selects a process for the execution, and the scheduler selects a process from the processes in a memory that are ready to execute and allocates the CPU to that process. That means in a CPU scheduler we were seen that whenever the CPU becomes free, whenever a CPU becomes idle, at that time the operating system select a one process for the execution, and that process is selected from the operating system ready queue. In the ready queue, we know that in the ready queue the processes that are ready for the execution that are stored into the ready queue. The operating system selects one of the process from the ready queue whenever the CPU gets free. CPU becomes idle, and that selection process is carried out by the short-term scheduler. The short-term scheduler we also called as an CPU scheduler. The function of the CPU scheduler is that the CPU scheduler selects a one process from a memory, a process from a ready queue, and allocates the CPU for that process. What is the function of scheduler? The scheduler selects a process from the processes in the memory that are ready to execute and allocates the CPU for that process. The scheduler selects a process from the ready queue and the CPU is allocated for that process. This is a CPU scheduler. The CPU, there are two types of CPU scheduling, that are preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. The CPU scheduling is divided into two types. First one is the preemptive scheduling and second one is the non-preemptive scheduling. These are the two types of scheduling. First we will see what is an exactly preemptive scheduling is. In this type of scheduling, the tasks are usually assigned with a priorities. In a preemptive scheduling, each process having its own priority. In this type of scheduling, all the tasks are usually assigned with the priorities. Here, the priorities are going to be assigned to each task that is going to be executed in the operating system. At times, it is necessary to run a certain task that has a higher priority before another task, although it is running. Therefore, the running task is interrupted for some time and resumed later when the priority task has finished its execution. So, in a preemptive scheduling, sometimes it is important to run a task with a higher priority before another lower priority task, even if the lower priority or lower priority task is still running. The lower priority task holds for some time and resumes when the higher priority task finishes its execution. So, in short, in a preemptive scheduling, in a preemptive scheduling, the tasks are mostly assigned with their priorities. All the tasks that are exist in the operating system, that all tasks having its own priority. So, whenever any process is going to be executed in a CPU, at that time while executing that process, when another process that having a higher priority than the currently running process, then that currently running process is hold and the CPU gets allocated for the newly arrived higher priority process, and after completion of the higher priority process, then the control will again transfer to that lower priority process or resumes that process again. This is a preemptive scheduling. Suppose the process P1 is executed into a CPU. The process P1 is getting executed in a CPU. While the execution, the another process, that process having a higher priority than the process P1 comes inside the CPU, then the control will or the CPU is allocated to that newly arrived higher priority process. And after completing the execution of that newly arrived higher priority process, the newly higher priority process, the old process is going to be in hold state, and after completing the execution of that higher priority process, again the CPU allocated for the process P1, that means a old process. Then next type of the CPU scheduling is the non-preemptive scheduling. In this type of scheduling method, the CPU has been allocated to a specific process. The process that keeps the CPU busy will release the CPU either by switching context or terminating. It is only method that can be used for various hardware platforms. That's because it does not need a special hardware, for example, a timer, like a preemptive scheduling. So, under a non-preemptive scheduling, once a CPU has been allocated to any process, then the process keeps the CPU until it releases the CPU either by terminating or by switching to the waiting state. That means in a non-preemptive scheduling, whenever a CPU is allocated for the any process, then the process keeps the CPU until it releases the CPU either by successfully terminating or by switching to the waiting state. That means in non-preemptive scheduling, once we assign a CPU for any process, then that process hold the CPU until it in a non-preemptive scheduling, once we assign a CPU for any process, then that process keeps the CPU until it releases the CPU either by terminating state or by waiting state. That means by switching to the waiting state. This is the preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. In short, in a preemptive scheduling concept, there are priorities are assigned to every process that are executed in a computer system. Then in a preemptive scheduling, whenever any process is going to be executed into a CPU, then at that execution time, whenever another one process arrives, and that newly arrived process, if that process having a higher priority than the currently running process, then at that time the currently running process execution is stopped. That process is going to be in a waiting state and the CPU gets allocated to that newly arrived process that having a higher priority. And after completing the execution of that higher priority process, then the CPU is again assigned to that before process. And in terms of non-preemptive scheduling, if we assign a CPU for any process, then that process keeps the CPU until it releases the CPU. This is the main difference between preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. The CPU scheduling decisions may take place under the following 4 circumstances. There are 4 conditions. On that 4 conditions, the CPU scheduling decisions may taking place. First condition, when a process switches from the running state to the waiting state, for example, as the result of an IO request or an invocation of wait for the termination of one of the child process, then there is an non-preemptive or cooperative scheduling is required. Next, when a process switches from the running state to ready state, for example, when an interrupt occurs, in this situation, the preemptive scheduling is required. The next third condition is that when a process switches from the waiting state to the ready state, for example, at completion of a IO request, then at that condition also the preemptive scheduling is required. And next one is the when a process terminates. That is, for that the non-preemptive or the cooperative scheduling is required. The non-preemptive scheduling is also called as a cooperative scheduling. In circumstances 1 and 4, there is no choice in terms of scheduling. A new process, if one exists in a ready queue, must be selected for the execution. There is a choice in circumstances 2 and 4. there is an choice for the execution. So into the first and fourth condition there is an no choice. So that are the non-preemptive or the cooperative scheduling is required for these two conditions. But in the condition 2 and 3 there is a choice. So here a preemptive scheduling is required. When a scheduling takes place only under the condition 1 and 4, we say that the scheduling scheme is non-preemptive. Otherwise, the scheduling scheme is a preemptive. This is the preemptive and non-preemptive scheduling. There are 4 conditions. Depends on that conditions the CPU scheduling decisions are taking place. Which type of scheduling is required? That is either non-preemptive scheduling or preemptive scheduling. Okay, thank you.